Is this... All right, I think we're on here. um, we're just hanging out down by the Tennessee River again today. Me, Debbie, and Buddy. You know, a little update on Buddy. Buddy's a cool little dog, man. He doesn't bark. I've had him probably, it's going on a month now. I've only heard him bark twice. He barked and give out a little howl at me when I first met him, because he seen me before I seen him. And we were sitting here where we're sitting now. It's like right on a trail along the river here. And these two girls come along, and we had Buddy loose. He wasn't on his leash. He was just laying here by us. We were just chilling. And next thing I know, he jumps up and takes off. I'm like, Buddy, no. Buddy, stay. And he stops. And I ran over and I got the leash on him, and here two girls pop up over the little hill that is down there. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, I got him on a leash, and then they caught up with us, and they're like these two little white girls. One's tall, one's short, and they both got like tattoos up to their necks, and had a real strong smell of perfume, and one's carrying a can of PBR in her hand. I'm like, that's cool. And but Buddy, he just acted really weird. And they stuck their hands out so Buddy could sniff them, and they said, you'll probably smell cats on us or something. I'm like, that's all right. And he sniffed them, and then I just kind of pulled him back a little bit. I had him on a leash, and he just like starts flipping out on the tall girl. He's like, like trying to get at her and stuff. And I had to, choke him down, choke up on the leash, and and then we chit-chat a little bit, and they took off. I don't know. I've never seen him act like that with anybody else, because, we've had him other places around people, parking lots and laundromat. We took him into Rural King one time. He didn't act like that at all. I think dogs sense things that we don't sense sometimes. So who knows? Anyway, Buddy's a cool dog. He doesn't bark. He has dogs all around him barking all the time. He'll get up and look out the window, see what all the hubbub's about, and he'll just lay back down. He's like, it ain't worth barking at. What a blessing. That's not what I come here to talk to you about. I'd like to talk about another subject. Recently, I had a friend. He's a good friend of mine, and his ex-wife died of an overdose of heroin or whatever. It's sad. I don't know if you ever been to an OD funeral before, but I have. There's a guy I knew. He was younger than me. I knew him when he was a baby. I grew up in church with him. And when he was 21 years old, he got all hooked on stuff. And then he tried to clean up, and he moved back in with his mom and dad. And one day his mom left him alone in the house by himself, went out to the store or whatever, and come home and found him dead in his bed with a needle in his arm. And I had to go to that funeral, and it's probably the saddest funeral I've ever seen, because of the expression on his parents' faces. It's crazy. But anyway, you know, have you noticed that there's a lot of heroin ODs now? I mean, when we lived in Washington, PA, there was just ODs all over the place. You go to the Get Go, it's like a convenience store chain owned by Giant Eagle, but there's people ODing in the bathroom, one or two a month sometimes. We seen a woman that OD'd in a Dollar General parking lot right, across from the main drag from us where we was living. Just people. Debbie's, she had a relative just recently. They found him in his van. Where's all this heroin coming from? Why is all of a sudden? Because I have a friend. He's a very good friend of mine. We used to be hunting buddies. We used to go tramp around the woods and hunt wild edibles and wild medicinal plants and stuff. Well, I ended up moving away for a while, but he had what happened was he injured his hip, so he went to the doctor, and the doctor put him all kinds of pain pills. This is way back, like late '90s, early turn of the century, and he kind of got hooked on pain pills. He was in pain. I mean, his hip was messed up, but and so this is how I see it. Anyway, eventually, pain pills, he started buying them off the street, and then they just became too expensive. So he got into heroin, man, because it was cheap. It was plentiful. So, supply and demand, you flood the market with something, the price should go down, in a real world. And I came back home, after moving away for a while and not seeing him for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years or something. And he was living in the worst part of town. And he was just skinny as a rail. He looked like he was ready to keel over and die any minute. He was on heroin. Now, thank God, he weaned himself off of it. He checked himself into a rehab. And got himself off that stuff, but they put him on Suboxone. They put him on Suboxone. So he took it a few times. He didn't really get hooked on it. He just started selling it to make a couple bucks. And he weaned himself off of it, and he got addicted to fishing. So ain't no harm in that, right? How what's going on here? This is the way I see it. Remember Oxycontin? Remember when there was a big Oxycontin problem? Well, first let me tell you, when I was like 18, 19 years old, I had a bad wrist. I fell and broke my wrist, fractured it. Hey, buddy. Hey, Debbie. So I went to the doctor and they operated on it twice because the first doctor was more dumber than the second doctor. And they gave me Percocets. Well, this is like, 89, 88, 89. And they just give you, here's some Percocets, here's some pain pills, man. And I got a little hooked on them there because I had a whole bunch of them. And, I was taking a couple before I went to work there for a while, Then I ran out and then I just, never worried about it. But I noticed one time in like around 2005, 6-ish, whatever, I fell down the stairs in the house I was living in. This is when I was with my ex-wife. And I fell down on my butt and slid down the stairs and wrenched my back to the point where I had tears in my eyes. And I actually broke down and went to a doctor, and he gave me like a 10-day supply for Percocets. And they helped a little bit. And, but like, after that 10 days, that's 1 week or 10 days, whatever it was, I went back and I'm like, hey man, I'm still in a lot of pain here. I wonder if you could give me another script. And man, it was like a big ordeal, See, that's what they did. They got everybody hooked on Percocets, Oxycontin, Vicodin, and Oxycontin. They used to call that hillbilly heroin. There's people in West Virginia sending their kids to school with them to sell them to make money for the house. That's a real thing, man. And then all of a sudden, you're giving them all out like candy. And then they cut them back. They say, "Oh, we got a pill problem now. We have to cut this back." Well, meanwhile, 9/11 happens, so that means we got to go, annihilate Afghanistan. A country that didn't have anything to do with anything. They said they was hunting for Obama bin Laden or whoever he was, right? This dude on dialysis hiding out in a cave, CNN go interview him, but they can't find him, right? That's a whole nother video there, but, well, you remember seeing the Marines standing around the poppy fields in Afghanistan? Yeah. Well, I remember old Nancy back in the 80s. Remember Nancy Reagan? She's talking, like, we got a war on drugs here. Just say no and all this and that. So why wouldn't them Marines, being the good Americans they are, why ain't they taking a flamethrower to them poppy fields and stomping this heroin problem out? Yeah. Maybe it's because they was wanting that heroin. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we went over there to begin with. Not to mention a pipeline and lithium, but you know what I mean. Because it seems like after we invaded there, which was what, 2001, 2002 or whatever, excuse me, that's when we started getting a little heroin problem in the country. Heroin's been around a long, long time. You used to be able to buy it at the stinking pharmacy back in the 1800s. There was a little problem with it in the 70s, but it's nothing like what it is now. That's because the government's bringing in, it's putting you on the streets. It's making money selling the heroin. And it's making money for putting you in jail for heroin. It's making money off the rehabs. It's making money off the hospitals. It's all about kill it and make a dollar, man. Meanwhile, they got you all strung out on heroin. You don't know what the frack's going on around you. you know. Now there's a fentanyl problem. Where's that coming from? That's not a natural thing like poppy. You know, Poppy. Remember Poppy Bush? You know, Baby Bush's daddy, Bush 1, whatever you want to call him. Well, he was running heroin out of Cambodia during the Vietnam War. He was in CIA back when Kennedy was killed. Why do you think they call him Poppy Bush? It's not because he's a papa. He's a poppy. They were shipping heroin home in the Vietnam, in dead Vietnam veterans' caskets. What do you think of that? Better get wise to what's going on, man. We are at war. We've always been at war, but it's like just getting worse and worse now. Well, just consider what I'm saying. I mean, we didn't have this heroin problem. It just exploded until after we went into Afghanistan. I hope you all have a good day. Be strong and be safe. Bye.